You are giving me $10 million.
Let's go. Who's gonna give you $10 million?
Jayceon motherfucking Taylor,
Also
is
known
giving
as
me the game.
Let's go.
It's giving me $10 million.
Well, speaking of money, the whole lawsuit situation that you got hit with, that still hasn't gotten worked out.
Yeah, probably won't ever. I'm broke.
Man, let's break down what just went down with the game, because this right here is straight wild. The Compton rapper, who's been in the spotlight for years, spitting raw bars and carrying that West Coast flag, is now caught in a courtroom storm that's shaking up his whole empire. We ain't talking about just a simple fine or some minor penalty. Nah, this is way bigger than that. His mansion, his music label, and even his royalties are all tangled up in this legal mess, and the judge ain't showing him any mercy. For real, the game is facing the kind of downfall most rappers only see in cautionary tales, and it all ties back to a case that's been dragging on for years. So here's the rundown. This all started from a lawsuit filed by Priscilla Rainey, who was on his reality show back in 2015.
That ever happened to me, but now I think I'm ready to find that special someone. And I'm gonna give her 100% of everything that I got.
Game is looking for love.
You're gonna step into my life and take this journey.
And he's bringing 10 lucky ladies along for the ride. She's Got Game. New series premieres Monday, August 10th.
She accused him of misconduct, and when the game didn't show up to court to defend himself, the judge hit him with a default judgment. That's like showing up to a fight without your gloves. The court just handed her the win without even hearing his side because he was absent. And we're not talking small change. This judgment came out to around $7 million. Imagine being hit with that kind of bill out of nowhere. It'll crush your finances, even if you're a platinum selling rapper. The crazy part, he tried to dodge, delay, and push back on paying, but the court wasn't playing games. They said, you owe this money, period.
Since 2003, right? Because that's when I got signed to Aftermath, 2003. If you ask anybody, anybody that really know me that's in this motherfucking industry, and go ask Dr. Dre, man. Like, sit Dr. Dre down and really ask that about who I am and my character and, like what he really feel about me at the end of the day as a man. So if you could ask Nip himself, he would have told you, and he did tell you out his own mouth what, I contributed, to his career. Coming straight out of Westside, Cedar Block, Bompton, and Top Dog know what it is, Kendrick know what it is, Mustard know what it is, Ty Dolla $ign know what it is, Dr. Dre know what it is, Snoop know what it is.
Now, when somebody wins a judgment that size and you don't pay, the court has ways to collect, and that's exactly where the game is right now. His Calabasas mansion, the luxury spot he's been living in, got ordered to be sold off. That means the court basically said, all right, you don't want to pay up, we'll sell your home and use the money to cover the debt. The game tried to protect it by saying it was his primary residence and should be safe under California's homestead exemption laws, but the judge wasn't convinced. They ruled he didn't qualify for that protection, so boom, the house is on the chopping block. And you already know, losing your mansion isn't just losing a roof over your head, it's losing a piece of your identity, especially in hip-hop, where your home reflects your status and success. But it don't stop there. Rainey's legal team went straight for the jugular, pushing to seize not just his home, but also the assets tied to his record label, Louisiana Prolific. That's his bread and butter, his foundation in the industry. Reports even say that rights to revenue from his album Born to Rap got snatched up as part of this judgment. That means money that should be hitting his account from streams, sales, and licensing could be redirected to cover what he owes. For a rapper like The Game, whose legacy is tied to his music, that's like chopping off both hands. You can't move the same when your creative money flow is locked up by the courts. It ain't just about cash, it's about pride, ownership, and legacy being stripped away. And think about the bigger picture. The Game has always been vocal about his career beefs and struggles. He built his brand on being raw and unapologetic, the Compton kid who rose up and made it big. But now, this lawsuit is rewriting his story in the headlines. Instead of folks talking about his verses or his classic tracks like Hate It or Love It or Dreams, people are talking about how the sheriff's office might end up auctioning his mansion and how his label's been seized by a court order. That's not the type of press any artist wants. On top of that, this case shows how dangerous default judgments can be. By not showing up and fighting it head on, The Game put himself in the worst possible position. The jury never even got to weigh in on the facts, never got to hear his side. He just lost by not showing. And when you lose by default, the damages they slap you with are often steep, almost like a punishment for ignoring the process. That's why he's stuck with this $7 million tab, which is life-changing money no matter who you are. Even wealthy rappers don't keep that type of cash liquid, especially when lifestyle costs, taxes, and other business ventures eat away at the pot. Fans are already speculating what this means for his career. Will the game try to bounce back by dropping new music and hustling harder? Or will this financial chokehold force him into a corner where he can't move like before? Some think he might declare bankruptcy as a way to restructure, but even then, judgments tied to certain cases are harder to erase. Either way, the court is locked in on collecting what's owed, and Rainey's team is making sure every possible asset is tracked down. For the game, this isn't just a legal battle, it's survival mode. The whole thing is a reminder of how fast the industry can flip on you. One moment you're on top, living lavish, and the next the court system is stripping it all away. It's scandalous, it's dramatic, and it's exactly the kind of downfall the media eats up. But the question remains, is the game really done for, or does he got one last move to pull himself out of this mess? The courtroom drama surrounding the game ain't just some private setback, it's a public unraveling of everything he worked for. And the streets are watching it like a movie. People been clowning, debating, and breaking down the case like it's a rap beef. But this ain't about diss tracks. It's about millions of dollars, lost assets, and a reputation that's now on the chopping block. The crazy thing is, the game has always branded himself as a fighter, a survivor who came up in Compton and made his way to the top of hip-hop, trading blows with some of the biggest names in the industry. But right now, it feels like he's fighting the system itself, and every punch the court throws lands harder than the last one. Think about what this really means. When your mansion gets snatched by the courts, it's not just a piece of real estate, it's a symbol. For rappers, homes in places like Calabasas or Hidden Hills are trophies, signs that you made it out the mud. They're where the parties go down, where the family lives, where interviews are shot, where you flex your lifestyle on social media. When the sheriff comes in with paperwork saying it's getting sold, it's like a public stripping of status. The mansion ain't just a house, it's part of the image, part of the brand. Losing that cuts deeper than just money, it hits the pride. Fans look at it like, damn, he really down bad, and haters look at it like victory. Either way, it changes how people view you in the game. And then there's the record label, Louisiana Prolific. That wasn't just another hustle, it was the game's way of showing he could run his own ship. For years, rappers fought to break free from the grip of major labels so they could own their masters, own their work, and build independent empires. The game took that path with LA Prolific, pushing his album Born to Rap as proof he could move on his own terms. But now, with the courts freezing up revenue streams and redirecting royalties, it feels like the empire is slipping through his hands. Imagine putting your blood, sweat, and creative soul into an album, only to have every dollar it makes go straight into the pockets of someone who sued you. That's not just financial, it's psychological warfare. It kills momentum, it makes you question every move, and it turns your art into someone else's paycheck. This situation also shines a light on how unforgiving the legal system can be when you're a celebrity. On the outside, people assume rappers are untouchable, that fame and fortune protect them. But the truth? The law doesn't care about your Billboard hits or your Grammy nominations. When the court issues a judgment, they will strip you bare if they have to. We've seen other rappers deal with tax liens, child support battles, even bankruptcy filings, but the game's case feels bigger because of how much he's losing all at once. Label, mansion, royalties, that's like chopping down the tree and the roots at the same time. The streets are reacting in all kinds of ways. Some fans got sympathy, saying he's being railroaded by the courts, that the judgment is too heavy for what was claimed, especially since he never got a jury trial. Others are saying, nah, that's on him. He should have shown up, fought it, and handled business like a man. Even in hip-hop circles, rappers are split. Some see it as a warning. Don't play games with lawsuits, because judges don't play back. Others see it as karma, saying the game has always been controversial and reckless, and now it's catching up. No matter where you stand, one thing's clear. His name is tied to this case now, maybe even more than it's tied to his music in the headlines. That's a dangerous place to be for an artist whose legacy is already written in the culture. What makes it even messier is that the game isn't just some average rapper. He's a West Coast icon who once carried the torch for Dr. Dre's Aftermath and 50 Cent's G-Unit era. Back when the documentary dropped in 2005, the game was hailed as the new blood for the West, the guy who brought Compton back into the spotlight. He went toe-to-toe with 50 Cent in one of the most talked about beefs of the 2000s, survived countless industry feuds, and still kept dropping albums that fans respected. To see someone with that resume now being forced to sell their home and give up label money, it's like watching a heavyweight champ lose his belt outside the ring. It hits different. But here's the thing, in hip-hop, image is everything, and right now the game's image is cracked. Even if he drops another project tomorrow, people are gonna ask, where's that money going? Straight to Rainy? That takes the excitement out of the release. It makes fans hesitant to fully celebrate the music, knowing the artist himself might not even benefit from it. That's a killer in an era where streaming revenue is already tight. If every stream goes to pay off a judgment, it turns the grind into quicksand. The more you hustle, the deeper you sink, unless you find a way to flip the script. On the flip side, the game could use this as fuel to reinvent himself. We've seen rappers go through scandals, lose everything, and come back stronger. Bankruptcy didn't kill 50 Cent, lawsuits didn't end Lil Wayne, and even artists like Fat Joe and DMX bounced back after heavy financial trouble. But the difference is how you play the comeback. Do you lean into it, admit the downfall, and build sympathy? Or do you try to front like nothing's wrong, even when the papers say otherwise? The game has always been a loud voice, a storyteller who ain't afraid of controversy. If he can flip this moment into a new narrative, he might survive. But if he hides from it, lets the courts define him, then this case could be the nail in his career's coffin. Right now, it feels like the game is standing at a crossroads. One path leads to rebuilding, the other leads to fading out under the weight of legal trouble. And the world is tuned in, waiting to see which way he goes. Will he hustle harder, drop another classic, and prove that a mansion or a label can't define his grind? Or will this be the moment where the industry says goodbye to one of Compton's hardest voices? One thing's for sure, this battle is far from over, and the next moves the game makes are gonna decide if he rises or gets buried under this judgment. What makes this whole saga even more jaw-dropping is how it pulls back the curtain on the darker side of fame. People look at rappers like The Game and see the jewelry, the flashy cars, the million-dollar homes, and assume it's endless money forever. But the truth, one legal hit can wipe out years of stacking paper, and that's exactly what's happening here. The judgment against him ain't just eating away at his bank account. It's bleeding into his brand, his music, his business moves, and even the way people respect him on the streets. Because in hip-hop, when your financial armor cracks, your enemies and haters are quick to pounce. Let's not forget, the game ain't new to controversy. His career has always been laced with drama, from his beef with 50 Cent and G-Unit to his bold claims about industry politics. He's always been that rapper who'll say whatever he wants, whether the world likes it or not. But now the headlines aren't about lyrical feuds or West Coast dominance. They're about sheriffs, seizures, and courtrooms. It's like watching a gladiator get dragged out of the arena, not because he lost the fight, but because the officials stepped in and stripped him of his weapons. The public perception shift is brutal, because no matter how hard you rap about the grind, once the court takes your mansion and label money, the streets see you as vulnerable. And in hip-hop, vulnerability gets magnified under a microscope. The impact goes beyond just dollars and cents. Think about how this affects collaborations, sponsorships, and industry connections. Labels and brands don't like attaching themselves to legal chaos. It makes them look messy by association. Artists who might have once jumped on a track with the game could start second-guessing, wondering if his name brings baggage instead of buzz. Promoters could hesitate to book him for shows, worried the check might get garnished or frozen before he even touches it. That kind of uncertainty kills momentum, and momentum is everything in a game that moves fast. Without momentum, even legends can find themselves pushed to the sidelines. But here's the flip side. Hip-hop culture also loves a comeback story. If the game can flip the script, own his downfall, and turn it into content, he might just find a way to rebuild. Picture him dropping an album raw enough to talk about losing the mansion, having his label seized, and battling the system. Fans eat up honesty when it's delivered with authenticity, and nobody can deny the game knows how to tell a story. He's got the lyrical skill to turn his pain into power. The only question is whether he's willing to be that vulnerable and whether he has the business set up to still benefit from that music financially, given that royalties are tied up. That's the catch. He can't just rap his way out unless he finds a loophole to get paid without it all being snatched by the court. What we're seeing is also a lesson for every artist coming up. Hip-hop has always been about independence, about owning your masters, building labels, and being your own boss. But it also shows the importance of handling your business outside the booth. One missed court date, one ignored lawsuit, one default judgment, that can undo everything. The game is basically a living example of what happens when you don't handle the legal side. He might have thought skipping trial was no big deal, but that one decision is now costing him millions, his home, his label's control, and maybe even his legacy. It's proof that in this industry, it ain't enough to have bars. You gotta have lawyers. You gotta pay attention to paperwork. You gotta treat the business like it's as important as the music. And it ain't just rappers watching this unfold. The fans are locked in too. Social media is buzzing with takes, memes, and debates. Some folks are clowning him, saying he lost it all and comparing him to other fallen stars. Others are defending him, saying the judgment was too harsh and the system is built to tear black men down when they make it big. That conversation itself is important because it shows how celebrity court cases reflect bigger social issues. But either way, his name is trending for all the wrong reasons, and once the internet stamps you with a label, it sticks. Even if he finds a way to rebuild, this moment will always be part of his story. The game's next moves are going to determine if this is the end or just another chapter. If he goes quiet, tries to disappear from the spotlight, the narrative is going to be that the courts broke him and he never recovered. But if he gets strategic, leans into the chaos, and finds a way to monetize his story, he could flip this disaster into a comeback. Remember, hip-hop ain't just about music, it's about resilience, image, and the ability to turn L's into lessons. The greats reinvent themselves when the world counts them out. The question is, does the game have that fire left in him, or is this the last page of his story as we know it? No matter what happens, this case will go down as one of the wildest legal battles in hip-hop history. A rapper who once stood as a West Coast giant is now standing in courtrooms watching pieces of his empire get stripped away one by one. And the whole culture is watching, learning, and judging. Whether you see it as karma, a cautionary tale, or just another scandal, one thing is undeniable. The game just took one of the hardest hits we've seen in the rap world in a long time. And until he makes his next move, the streets will keep whispering, is this really the end of the game, or is there still another verse left in his legacy?